It's the last day of school for the class of 2024 in the Ginetta Junior Championship. One more race to round out their season. The championship already provisionally at least has been decided, and now it's just those final few scores to be settled, and what a venue to settle those scores. The Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit looking splendid. It's a little bit chilly, it's a little bit overcast, but it's a dry track and a track that always has produced good Ginetta Junior action, including in the two races earlier on this weekend. We've had some fantastic action, a few controversial moments in the context of the championship, but after race 2 earlier on, Ethan Jeff Hall has given himself an insurmountable points advantage over his R-Racing teammate Chase Fernandez, and for that reason, Ethan Jeff Hall making the decision, it would seem, not to take the start of our third and final race of the weekend. There was a gap on the grid where his number 25 car should be. I walked past that car actually in the paddock earlier on, and they'd replaced the number 25 on the windscreen with the number 1, but only so that people can admire it in the paddock rather than out on the track. Charlie Hart then and Isaac Phelps will make it an all-elite motorsport front row. Chase Fernandez and Henry Joslin will be together on row number 2. Fernandez also secure now second place in the championship. His teammate Marcus Sater starts right behind him, with Archie Clark for Elite Motorsport starting 6th. Ruben Dan will now have Alfie Slater, well, actually won't have Alfie Slater for company, I don't think, on row 4. It might be a slight change. Then it will be not Ethan Jeff Hall 9th. Jude Peters will be on his own there for row 5. Colin Cronin and James Ellis together on the 6th row of the grid. Row 7, Torrin Byrne and Felix Livesey for MDD Racing. Then Ethan Carney and Tom Ingram Hill make up the 8th row of the grid. Both of them looking to try and make some progress in this final race of the year. Harry Moss, Holly Mile and hopefully Jack Robinson make up the rear of the grid. I don't think we saw Jack in race 2 earlier on today, but it looked like the number 45 Fox Motorsport prepared car was there at the back of the field this time, so that's good news. Lining up actually right behind his teammate Holly Mile at the rear of the order. So we don't really need to worry about championship standings. The team's championship has been won already by R-Racing, perhaps unsurprisingly. They've locked out the top 2 positions in the Drivers' Championship as well, and there indeed is Jack Robinson. That's good news. The number 45 is out on track. Not sure what kept him out of race 2, but he's taking part, it would seem, in the final race of the year. But yeah, no points to worry about. Let's just enjoy a good, hard race here between, as I say, the class of 2024, who have put on a show already. The championship being won around early does not really do this season justice. It has been a hugely competitive year. Lots of different race winners over the course of the season. And who knows, we might yet get a new winner here in the final race of the season. We'll have to wait and see. But yes, the championship that began at Alton Park on Easter weekend, then headed to Silverstone, 2 visits to Donington Park, Snetterton. We had the Anglesey G-Fest as well, the first time that event had taken place up in North Wales. And out of it all, Ethan Jeff Hall the champion, but we've had wins from Ethan Jeff Hall, Chase Fernandez, Charlie Hart, Henry Joslin. Isaac Phelps has won 3 times, 2 wins for Marcus Sater, a win for Colin Cronin last time out at Donington Park as well, and a whole host of other drivers who have appeared on the podium. So it has been a very competitive season. Who's going to win the final race of that season, though? That is the only remaining question, really. Elite Motorsport 1-2, the R-Racing car of Chase Fernandez starting 3rd. Chase would love to round out the season with a race win, just to prove a point, if nothing else. He's had, I believe, race-winning pace all weekend long. Hasn't necessarily had the rub of the green, found himself on the outside looking in a few times in on-track battles this weekend. But he starts 3rd and will have eyes only for the top step of the podium. The final race of the Ginetta Junior Championship for 2024 then bursts into life. The lights go out. It is a good start by Fernandez, also from Henry Joslin, look from the outside of row number 2, but Charlie Hart is away like a scalded cat and will lead them uncontested into Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. Joslin goes 3rd, so not for the first time this weekend. Chase Fernandez not that rapid off the start, and will now have a bit of work to do even just to get back into a podium place. Out wide goes the number 4 of James Ellis as they head towards Druids for the first time. A couple of them snatching breaks. It is noticeably cooler now, I would say, than it was for race number 2 earlier on today, so it might take them a few laps just to get everything warmed up as we ride on board with Chase Fernandez then on the tail of Henry Joslin, who has at least kept his car in one piece this time. Remember, he was through the gravel trap, wasn't he, in the race earlier on, and lost all of that rear bodywork. His car never looked happy in that race, but he's up into 3rd place early doors now. Fernandez giving him a helping hand out of Surtees, up the hill, and back down Pilgrim's drop towards Hawthorn, where Charlie Hart leads the way. Phelps second position. The first driver to sort of stick their nose out of line, look, is Archie Clark to the outside of Marcus Sater. He's got a run. In fact, he's got the place, so a really good exit from the corner for Archie Clark, and he is into the top 5. His Elite Motorsport teammate Ruben Dan behind. It's been nice to see Elite Motorsport really taking the fight to R Racing this weekend as well. They did early in the season, midway through the year really, is where R Racing started to rack up all of the wins and ultimately sealed the championship, in the Teams Championship that is. But Elite Motorsport just reminding everyone here at the end of the season that they know what they're doing in Ginetta's. They have been one of the top teams in Ginetta Racing for a number of years now. R Racing, in comparison, relatively new on the scene. And Elite Motorsport showing now that they are not going to go down without a fight. Henry Joslin, the sort of lone Prep Tech UK ranger towards the front of the field. Prep Tech UK smaller in numbers as far as entries on the grid, but Henry Joslin has scored the majority of their points and has been a factor all year long. 4th in the championship, it would seem, is where he's going to end up. He is 3rd across the line, though, at the end of lap 1. Goes to the high, wide and handsome line into Paddock Hill Bend, looks for the switchback. I don't think it's quite going to happen this time. Back on board with Fernandez. Now he goes to the outside as Joslin goes to the inside, and Phelps is having a nibble at Charlie Hart already. Chase Fernandez just commits to the outside line. He's cleared Joslin already and draws level with Isaac Phelps, but he will get hung out to dry, forces his way back in line, but actually leaves the door wide open for Joslin into Graham Hill Bend. I think the momentum will be with Fernandez still on the outside line, but Chase Fernandez really on it here, and that's Archie Clark on the grass trying to find a gap up the inside of Joslin, and then Chase Fernandez launches up the inside of Isaac Phelps. He's up the curve, he's sideways into the side of Isaac Phelps. Oh, you can tell it's the last race of the season, can't you? No points to worry about. They are all gunning for a race win, and Fernandez has muscled his way through into second place. Phelps the big loser, really, because even Marcus Sater now might get past him, except no, Alfie Slater gives Isaac Phelps a push down the hill, and ironically doesn't really work well with his teammate there. They both go past Marcus Sater. So the order now then, Hart the leader, a couple of them skating wide out of Hawthorn. Second for Fernandez, third might soon be Archie Clark, because he's having a go at Henry Joslin now, as Alfie Slater and Isaac Phelps are getting intimate at Westfields. And they're almost 3 or 4 abreast down through the dip. Ruben down on the grass, they are 3 wide into Sheen Curve, that won't work. Someone had to back out of it, and in the end, it was Marcus Sater, I think, who was hung out to dry. Now, let's sort this out through Stirling's, everybody. You can't really run side by side through this part of the circuit without a little bit of rubbing. And James Ellis was the one who ended up out on the dirt coming through Stirling's corner. Down into the last turn there, Jude Peters peeks to the outside of Ruben Dan now, the E3 Sport car looking to move forwards, but the order at the end of lap 2 bears no real resemblance to the order at the end of lap 1, other than it's still Charlie Hart leading, but behind him it's all changed. Fernandez now second, Joslin third, Clark fourth, Slater fifth. Slater picked up 2 places on that lap. Isaac Phelps losing 4 places, but already starting to march back towards the front, maybe. Leans on Alfie Slater as he completes the manoeuvre through the dip at Paddock Hill Bend, and does go back ahead into Druids Corner. Then Ruben Dan, Jude Peters and Marcus Sater are debating 8th position, which goes for now at least in the favour of Jude Peters. And Felix Livesey there completing the top 10, the white, black and blue MDD car, and he is making, I think, his first appearance really inside the top 10 so far this weekend. Down through Surtees, climbing uphill then onto the Grand Prix circuit again. Need to watch the lap times at the front then, because Chase Fernandez was 3/4 of a second behind Charlie Hart at the beginning of the lap, but took 2/10 out of the race leader in Sector 1 alone. So Fernandez just about within slipstreaming range still. That slipstream will definitely be helping him out the back, the faster part of the circuit. And when they get around Sheen Curve in a few seconds' time, we'll be able to see if that gap is still coming down. I'm pretty sure it is. He's certainly getting away from Joslin, who's got Archie Clark on his tail. Archie Clark, who has had just the 2 podium finishes so far this season, both of them 3rd places. He's going for 3rd again at Sheen, and Henry Joslin chops across in front of him, then gets 2 wheels on the grass, gathers it together, keeps Clark behind. Brilliant car control from the Prep Tech UK driver. But that's not the first time we've seen Henry Joslin on the grass today, and it may not be the last the way he's going. He is pushing very hard because he can see the top 2 getting away. This is all because Chase Fernandez is putting together what is surely going to become the new fastest lap of the race. Purple Sector 1, Purple Sector 2, fastest in the speed trap at the end of Sector 2 as well. And look, he's right on the tail now of Charlie Hart as they head across the timing line. 3/4 of a second comes down to a 1/10.5 or so, and Fernandez is going for it up the inside into Paddock Hill Bend. Late on the break, sails through but runs a little bit wide on the exit, and Charlie Hart read that situation perfectly, got the switchback, executed it perfectly, and is back into the lead, yes, at Druid's Corner. Behind, I think a very similar thing unfolded between Joslin and Clark, because I'm sure I saw Clark in third going into Paddock Hill Bend, but on the exit, Joslin has gone back ahead. That is the classic Paddock Hill Bend switchback. You take the wide line in, even if you get overtaken on the way in, there's always a good chance you'll be able to get the better run up the hill and get back to the inside into Druids, which is exactly how Charlie Hart played it. Charlie, with those 2 wins now to his name this year, would love to make it 3. And he is in the right position to do so now, but Chase Fernandez did set the fastest lap last time around and is now quite literally pushing Charlie Hart down the hill, bump drafting into Hawthorn, now pulls out a line and forces Charlie to defend the inside line. Watch again for the switchback attempt here. He'll turn into the late apex. He's on the power a little bit sooner, carries extra momentum down the Minter straight. Oh, jigs to the inside, but a bit too late. There was a touch between them as they turned into Westfield there. And Charlie Hart, the rear of Charlie's car, is now sporting a few little scuffs and scrapes from the front of Fernandez's machine, as Chase Fernandez gives him a real workover. But Charlie Hart hanging on for now, pitches the car into Sterling's. That little altercation has allowed the next 2 to close in. Someone's been off at Sterling's by the looks of it. Lots of dirt and debris and bits of bodywork out on the edge of the track. But Charlie Hart continues to lead the pack then as a leading quartet emerges back into the stadium section through Clark Curve, and is Fernandez going to have another go now into Paddock Hill Bend? You would imagine Hart will defend a little bit more vigorously this time, which he does, and forces Fernandez to go the long way round. Now, can Chase do to Charlie what Charlie did to him a lap ago? The answer is yes. I think he's got the run and does have that inside line for Druids, and again, it's an action replay immediately behind them as Archie Clark gets up the inside of Joslin. Fernandez to the lead. Can Clark go third? I think he will. He'll squeeze Joslin wide. No, Joslin keeps on coming, as in fairness does Charlie Hart. Hart on the outside at Graham Hill Bend. That doesn't work. Joslin and Clark, they are still door handle to door handle, and Charlie Hart has gone and got another switchback. Look at this. This is terrific racing. They're putting into practice everything they've learned through the season so far, and Charlie Hart is back out in front. What about third place? Yep, Joslin goes back ahead too. And of course, as they battle, more cars join in the fun. Isaac Phelps, who's back into the top 5 now, is almost back on their tail, and bringing with him, I think, Alfie Slater and Ruben Dan. So we're going to have even more cars in this leading group, which once again heads down towards Hawthorn with Charlie Hart defending the inside. Fernandez, long way in, short way he hopes out. This is where they made a little bit of contact a lap ago. Hopefully they'll avoid that this time. Again, though, Charlie defends. Now, this is not a good corner to be defending at. Surely Fernandez will get the run through Dingle Dell. Yes, he does. He takes the shorter route through the dip. That's the inside line for Sheen Curve, and Charlie Hart could get shuffled out of the pack here. Joslin trying to go with Fernandez. Fernandez hits the front. Joslin to second. Brilliant stuff. And Henry Joslin back into P2. Hart down to the bottom step of the podium for now, but he's got 2 Elite Motorsport teammates right behind him now, Archie Clark and Isaac Phelps. I wonder whether those 3 might try and gang up on the 2 cars ahead. Well, Charlie's going it alone for now. Goes to the outside of Phelps into Clearways. That is a very difficult move to pull off, but again, I think he's looking more for that switchback and the tighter line to the line. Doesn't quite work for now, though. So Fernandez leads. Joslin's on the grass trying to find a way through. They all stack up. There's lots of contact across the line, and still they're all still in the same order. No one wants to go to the outside. Ironically, it's the leader who does. There's a bit of touchy-feely stuff between Fernandez and Joslin, and still Fernandez has the lead. Joslin dives back to the inside to cover Charlie Hart, and Isaac Phelps is trying to come through up the inside of his teammate into 4th position. This is incredibly close racing. They're pushing each other around the track because nobody wants to go to the outside line. They know that in a race like this, where no one's got anything to lose, if you leave a gap on the inside, it will be filled pretty rapidly. And, well, this is proper Ginetta Junior racing. Oh, that's Felix Livesey doing some rally crossing in the background. But Chase Fernandez has got to the front of the field. The one thing he's been trying to do all weekend and just hasn't ever been able to get there. And ironically, now that the championship is out of reach for Chase, he finds himself in the lead. But can he stay there? That's the real question. Down towards Hawthorn. Who's going to break out of line? Charlie Hart thinks about it. I'm sure Joslin will swing to the outside as they turn in. No, didn't dare. In fact, all of the leading 4 take a very narrow line into Hawthorn. And that might well give a run to the 5th place car, Archie Clark. They are locked together. You can't see where you're going from the onboard camera there. Charlie Hart to the inside of Joslin, though. Found a gap, wriggled through it. And this is where, of course, Joslin got past him a lap ago. Ruben Danny's on the grass. Joslin gets knocked out wide. Isaac Phelps sees an opportunity, but will have to bail out of that one. Lots of curb taken by Charlie Hart, who you ride on board with. We're back in 2nd place now. And Chase Fernandez is once again in our sights. And Sterling's down into Clearway's corner again. A bit of a wipe of the brow maybe there for Charlie Hart, working up a sweat at the moment. Got more cars joining in now. I think Marcus Sater is making this an 8-car lead battle, which makes its way around to the end of the lap. Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them line astern, as we have, disappointingly, only 9 minutes left of the season. But I don't think this one is over just yet. Chase Fernandez versus Charlie Hart. They've done battle on many occasions already this year. Ruben Dan's slipping up the inside of Alfie Slater. That was a good move for 6th. And Slater now will have Marcus Sater, his teammate, right behind him. Felix Livesey's off again in the background, doing his best to try and grab our attention is Felix Livesey, but all eyes are trained on this lead group, because you just have the feeling, don't you, that this is all going to erupt at some point. It already has a couple of times. They've kept it reasonably clean so far. Here comes Charlie Hart, wide line into Graham Hill Bend, tight line out. That gets him up the inside into Surtees. Is Joslin close enough to go with him? Don't think he is, so Fernandez might be able to slot back into 2nd place. Yes, he does. And it is Charlie Hart back to the lead again, as they head uphill and into the countryside. It wouldn't be an onboard camera footage with Chase Fernandez without seeing him waggling his finger at someone. I think pointing at Charlie Hart there to say that he's going to work with him, but does still pull out to try and get an overlap into Hawthorn. Inches, if that, between front and rear bumper as they head towards Westfield again. Charlie defends. Fernandez doesn't really know which way to go. Wants to go to the outside. Doesn't really know how close Henry Joslin is. I think he's on the inside again. No, Charlie Hart gets the door closed. But these late blocks are very dangerous indeed. It's so easy to turn yourself around the front of another car because you think you've cleared them when you haven't. Joslin's on the grass. That's pretty much situation normal at this point, really. Isaac Phelps gets a run, but he's on the outside line, and that was rather inevitable, I'm afraid. Got leaned on, out through the gravel he goes, and having made up some of the ground he lost earlier on, well, he's got to do it all again now, down to 8th place, and in danger, actually, with that loss of momentum and dirt on his tyres, of losing touch with the lead group altogether. Now, that has caused a little bit of separation, look, between the top 2 and everybody else. So do Fernandez and Hart now try and work together for a few laps to get away from them, or are they going to keep on doing battle? Well, Charlie clearly thinks Fernandez still wants to fight him because he's defending into Paddock Hill Bend. That will, again, slow him down on the exit. He's sideways as well. Fernandez sees a gap on the inside, but the gap disappears very quickly. And Charlie Hart, with all of this defensive driving, well, within a couple of corners or so, the chasing pack will be right back with them again. Looks well and truly off then in this final race of the season, which has 6.5 minutes or so still to go. Oh, Ruben Dan with a very aggressive move up the inside of Alfie Slater. They both run wide though, and Marcus Sater might be able to pick the pocket of both of them into Surtees. He's got one, he's got two, and might bring Isaac Phelps with him. All 4 of them trying to squeeze through the corner. There's a tiny touch between Ruben Dan and Alfie Slater, but again, remarkably clean racing this. Side by side for the lead. Fernandez to the outside of Charlie Hart. Has he got the momentum? Charlie will get a bit of a side draft as they head down the hill, and look, that pulls him back ahead. Has his nose in front going into the corner. Watch for the switchback though. Fernandez will tuck in on the late apex, try to get the inside into Westfield. I don't think he's quite got the momentum though. No, Charlie Hart was wise to that, pulled to the inside line. And they go again through Westfield corner, down through the dip. Fernandez looking to the inside. Charlie Hart closes the door. They both lose their momentum. And Henry Joslin and Archie Clark are almost back with them. Those two are going side by side into Sheen Curve. Surely Archie Clark's not going around the outside. Well, he was. And that was the end result. Straight out into the kitty litter. It is such a difficult part of the circuit to be on the outside line. It's such a dirty part of the road there, especially this late point in the day. Lots of marbles and dust and rubbish on the outside of the track. And that is not conducive usually to grippy track conditions. So it is Clark this time who sort of does himself no favours, drops down the order. But he'll be back with them in no time because again the lead battle is starting to intensify. 5 and a bit minutes to go. Across the line we go at the end of lap number 8. The official lead margin is 1/10.5 of a second. It's less than that though. Surely as Fernandez finds a gap and goes for it. Brilliant overtaking. There's a tiny touch on the way through. That means he runs out wide and they're 3 abreast towards Druids Corner. Henry Joslin on the inside, the outside Fernandez. Hart leans on him and Joslin gets the advantage now. Henry Joslin read that to perfection. He's in the lead of the race and Chase Fernandez will be spitting feathers. He was in the lead 10 seconds ago and now he's back down into 3rd position again. Isaac Phelps and Ruben Dan behind doing battle, but this is getting very, very feisty indeed. Henry Joslin, now he's out in front. He's finding out just how difficult it is to keep this baying pack of Ginetta Junior drivers behind. Through Surtees, off up the hill they go. Fernandez, wide line through the corner. Now what does he do? Duck out of line or give a bit of assistance to Charlie Hart? He'd quite like to push Charlie into a move here, I think, but they're kind of staying line astern for now. In towards Hawthorn corner again. Well, once more, Joslin and Hart are on the inside line. Then come two our racing cars behind, they being Fernandez and Marcus Sater, who has excellently moved his way up through the order. Again, Fernandez with the late move into Westfield. He likes that move, doesn't he? Didn't work that time. Sater under threat from Isaac Phelps, and so too Fernandez. Phelps might get two for the price of one here. Both of the R Racing cars were slow off the corner, and Isaac Phelps needed no second invitation. Bit of tyre smoke behind. I think everyone's still there, though, just about. This is probably the race of the season, to be honest. Now that the championship pressure has been relieved, they're just going for every overtaking opportunity possible. More fist-waving from Chase Fernandez, trying to suggest to his teammate Marcus Sater that he should give him a push, but Marcus wasn't listening and wasn't paying attention to the hand signals, and instead goes to the inside line himself. And you know what's coming here? Chase Fernandez on the outside, no help from behind, and they all will go sailing through on the inside. So Henry Joslin leading, Charlie Hart challenging from second position. And I reckon two more laps to go. It is Phelps now into third and Sater fourth. Fernandez has got Ruben Dan and Archie Clark to his inside now as they arrive at Druids, almost three abreast because Archie Clark's at the inside. Fernandez sails back round the outside of his teammate Marcus Sater. I don't think Marcus is going to help you, Chase. I'm just getting that impression. By the third race of the weekend, you're going to have to do this all on your own, I think. Round Graham Hill Bend, Ruben Dan clobbers the curve. Out wide goes Archie Clark. And for the lead, Charlie Hart still can't break through the defences of Henry Joslin. Ruben Dan and Archie Clark still side by side there. They're battling over sixth position, and Archie Clark, not for the first time, ends up with all four wheels on the grass coming out of a corner. This time Surtees. Oh, he's still there though, still trying to find a gap up the inside of Ruben Dan, who also has Alfie Slater to contend with, who goes to the outside of both of them. Down towards Hawthorn. Again, leader defends. Second place man tries the wide in, tight out approach, but it's a difficult move to make in these low-powered cars. A mistake from Joslin will help, but he gets back across onto the nose of Charlie Hart. Henry Joslin, as the race leader, just has to drive 90% of this race in his mirrors, NASCAR style, really. And make sure that he is always positioned where Charlie Hart wants to be. Armfuls of opposite lot there for Charlie. He's into the back of Joslin again as they arrive at Stirling's, and now he has his teammate Isaac Phelps behind him. In fact, he's got Isaac Phelps alongside him. Isaac Phelps saw a gap. Chase Fernandez has got a view of this. Does he try and make it three abreast into the final corner? He tried. Charlie Hart got over to cover. They all arrive at Clearways as one, about to begin the final lap of the season. Who is going to get the win? Well, it won't be Isaac Phelps because he's in the gravel at Clearways and Clark Curve, and by the time he digs his way back onto the track, the leaders will have gone. So realistically, it is now 5 for the lead, but Joslin has a little bit of an advantage going into the final lap of the race. That is Fernandez, is it? Yes, Fernandez back up the inside of Charlie Hart. 4 second position, runs out wide. Hart gets the switchback. They're handing this on a platter, you've got to say, to Henry Joslin, who just needs to not make a mistake for the final 2.5 miles of this race, and he will end the season a winner. Charlie Hart leans on Fernandez, breaks back through into second position, but can they catch the leader now? I'm not sure they can, especially if they're going to battle for second place. Oh, Fernandez all out of shape, up over the grass, and Marcus Sater sees a chance to get to the inside. Now, that may just allow Charlie Hart to break away from these two and go after the leader. In the background, by the way, there was a drama of some sort for Archie Clark. I think he's had a spin coming out of Graham Hill Bend, but watch that second place car. Charlie Hart, can he pick up the slipstream and close back in on Henry Joslin? He's shaken off the cars behind who are busy debating the bottom step of the podium. Charlie needs a mega run through the quick right-handers at the back of the circuit here to have any chance of claiming win number 3 of the season in the final race of the season. Out of Hawthorn they go then, down the Minter Straight. The gap is coming down, I would say. Charlie Hart's giving this a really good go. Up over the curb, plenty of sideways motion through the apex. He will, I think, catch Henry Joslin by the time they get to the final corner, but can he find a way through? That's the question. Again, takes a much tighter line through Sheen Curve. 2 more corners to go. Joslin will have some defending to do, I think, into clear Clearways corner because Charlie Hart is right there. Both of them slide out to the edge of the road. Sater looks pretty secure in third. You're on board then with Charlie Hart. One more corner to go. Can he find a way through? They both go in on the wide line. It will be a drag race to the line. So too between the R-Racing teammates for third. But here comes Charlie Hart. He's got the slipstream. I just don't think he's quite got enough time to get there. It will be Henry Joslin who picks up the race victory by half a car's length in the end. A fourth win of the year. It's almost a dead heat for third. But Chase Fernandez sees off Marcus Sater and Ruben Dan, who gets himself into the top 5 after a thrill-a-minute final round of the Ginetta Junior Championship. That is the perfect way to wrap up the season, and Henry Joslin will be absolutely elated to have picked up that race victory. He hit the front late in the race, but you have to say that was just at the right time, because when he hit the front, they all started tripping over each other behind him. That gave him the gap going on to the final lap, and although Charlie Hart caught him by the flag, he just wasn't able to find a way through. And for the first time in 20 minutes, I can breathe. That was fantastic racing. We may not have had our champion-elect on the grid for that one, but the rest of the class of 24 put on one heck of a show. It was a race won by Henry Joslin, his 4th win of the year. Charlie Hart in 2nd place again. Chase Fernandez in 3rd, with Marcus Sater and Ruben Dan completing the top 5. Alfie Slater and Isaac Phelps 6th and 7th, with Felix Livesey, Colin Cronin and Jude Peters to complete the top 10. Torrin Byrne, James Ellis and Tom Ingram Hill were next. Then it was Ethan Carney ahead of Archie Clark, Harry Moss, Jack Robinson and Holly Mile complete the 18 runners. That was quite the race then. What a way to conclude our 2024 season. Still more Ginetta racing to come here from Brands Hatch. One race apiece for the GT Championship and the GT Academy. Their final races of the season still to come. But in Ginetta Juniors, that is it. And we'll await now news over the winter as to what some of these youngsters are going to be doing. Quite a few of them completing their 2nd season in Ginetta Juniors. So a very good chance they'll go on to race in other things if they are of the suitable age to do so. But there is some real talent on this grid, and they all, I'm sure, will be hungry to try and further their racing career over the winter. So give them a like and a follow on the old social media, and we'll see where they turn up in 2025. Henry Joslin out of the car and celebrates with the PrepTech UK team. Like I said, PrepTech not the biggest team on the grid by any stretch of the imagination, but they have been every bit as quick as the R-Racing and Elite Motorsport prepared cars. Joslin not the only PrepTech driver on the grid. Ethan Carney has raced with them, Alfie Davis as well, but they haven't done every round. So really it has been Joslin, the Lone Ranger, picking up all of the points that he can, and enough points in the end to finish in 4th place in the championship. This then, we believe, is how the final points table will look. Ethan Jeff Hall, as I said, had already done enough to wrap up the championship. 607 points for him. Chase Fernandez 2nd, and Charlie Hart in the end in 3rd position. Joslin 4th, and Isaac Phelps in 5th. So in the end, nothing changed after that final race. Marcus Sater, Archie Clark, Ruben Dan, Alfie Slater and Colin Cronin complete the top 10 in the points. We've had 26 drivers compete with us this season, and I'm sure we'll see many of these names back on the grid again in 2025. So, a cracking way to end the season. Let's take a look, shall we, at some of the highlights of that final race. The last race of the season in the Ginetta Junior Championship took place without the champion-elect Ethan Jeff Hall. But don't worry, everyone else was ready and raring to go to put on a show that kept the crowd here at Brands Hatch thoroughly entertained. It was Charlie Hart who led from his Elite Motorsport teammate Isaac Phelps at the start of the race. This was about as calm as things got, though, because over the next 20 minutes, they and several other drivers would engage in a truly sensational battle for the victory. Chase Fernandez, his chances of a championship may have gone, but he wanted to round the season out with a race win, made this brilliantly aggressive move around the outside of everyone at Druids to eventually break into 3rd place, then tried to go 2nd at Surtees, climbed up the curve, knocked into the side of Isaac Phelps, but did find his way into the runners-up spot. That then became the lead with a good opportunistic move out of Westfield against Joslin, with Charlie Hart slotting through into 2nd position. At this point, there were 7 or 8 of them who realistically could have won the race, and positions were changing by the corner. Charlie Hart got back to the lead half a lap or so later, and then Chase Fernandez made an audacious late-braking manoeuvre up the inside into Paddock Hill Bend. There was contact between the two of of them. They both washed out wide, and Henry Joslin saw his chance to get back into the lead of the race, and at just the right moment, because from this point on, it was all about the battle for second place as they were knocking lumps out of each other. Joslin started to pull away. Charlie Hart eventually broke through into second place, caught Joslin by the flag, but didn't quite have time to make the move. Joslin then rounds out the season with a win.